we think about building great schedules and great solutions for brand marketers as really a function of how we take all the big elements of their inventory and deliver that to that end audience in the right way to help drive a marketing result. So we call that the boulders, rocks, and sand of scheduling. So as it relates to the data enablement of television, we've been doing a lot of work against really all those three phases of the boulders, rocks, and sands of scheduling to help our customers apply more data to that.
Can you describe what each of those are?
I will.
So
really a big boulder in the schedule might be an upfront traded, content premium, television deal. That's a big boulder. A rock might be more, scatter or nearer real time, but still sold on a futures basis, television advertising. And then long tail stuff, the stuff, that you might be getting from, in a television context, from an SSP or an aggregator, which is really about filling in the kind of overall delivery of a schedule and marrying those three things together. And so we've really been doing a lot of work against all of those three phases, and they have different degrees of difficulty. If I think about the sand end of the spectrum, you've been doing a lot of work there, and I think that's pretty simple work, but it's good work, and that's where we're taking data, applying it to television viewing, marrying it up with first-party data, and helping to score inventory, so we can start to repackage things from SSPs and aggregators for our customers to help do that, so they can bring more data enablement to that long tail and start to buy things and transact things differently in that world.
So when you say data, what types of data specifically are you using to match to linear TV?
All kinds. It's really where all kinds. So everything from we think about it as viewing, as targeting, and as attribution, and they're the three big buckets. So we work with Nielsen in their data universe, Rentrak soon, Rentrak's ComScore in their kind of data universe to understand what consumers are, what people are consuming and where. We'll bring in we'll marry that up against all sorts of closed loop consumption data, with that from dunnhumby or IRI or Videology and all that stuff, and then we'll bring in a lot of other kind of first-party data or third-party data where it's relevant. So we'll onboard all of that and marry all of that up, so we can really help find the most relevant and granular audiences inside television and cross-screen inventory pools. So that's what we think about when we talk about data. There's a lot of people and companies that are great at data management. We focus very much on data activation. How do we take all of that data and bring it at the point where consumption's happening, so we can help you decide what ad to put in front of what person, whether it's, as Scott talked about, whether it's bidded, served, or scheduled. That's regardless of the delivery mechanism. So that is the sand. That's the sand end of the spectrum for us. As we think about boulders, we've been doing a lot of work. There's a lot of inventory owners that don't want to take their inventory and just stick it in an aggregated, price volume curve or reach frequency curve and sell it all together. So there's a lot of important business that gets done between companies in this room. I look at Brett from Video, or Jason and Monty from AT&T. They don't want to just put all their stuff out there and say go bid on it. They want to sell to people like Tracy and Irwin, and they want to do it much more in a direct fashion. So it's using technology and data to enable those transactions to happen, apply data to it, to value and score inventory differently, and come to better terms, where both sides of the transaction are really getting more value out of that. So that's our kind of programmatic direct platform, which is rolling out at the moment. So we've been doing a lot of the plumbing to build those direct connections between buyer and seller to enable and that's where we think the next wave of scale is going to come to data-enabled television. The long tail stuff's great, but that programmatic direct transaction, we think, is going to bring the next wave of scale. And then the front end, the boulders, we've been doing a lot to really help particularly our demand customers. I know you're going to talk about supply next. I'll talk about this from a demand perspective. We've been doing a lot of the hard work, which is really about foundation building and plumbing, which is really about helping some of our demand customers bring more data enablement to the allocation and optimization of stuff they're buying in traditional ways. So I'm going to go buy it in the upfront. How are we helping you bring first-party data, all the data we talked about, bring that together to bring the next generation of optimization tools and systems to that process. And ultimately, we need to do all those three things because we're trying to break down silos. We don't want to create a new programmatic television silo.
Right.
What we do in long tail has to have a direct understanding of what we've done in the earlier stages of planning and buying. So we're trying to stitch those things together for our customers.
Do you see it being sort of your TV boulders, your TV rocks and your TV sand, and then separate sort of sandbox or separate sort of geological structure entirely being video, or are these things kind of coming together?
They are coming together, yeah. and they're very holistic. And so it starts, you know, obviously it starts with the ability to move data across. So when you can plan video, it may not be real time, you know, optimized in the context of television, because the technologies are different, but we'll know what's happened in TV. We know what the reach and frequency is on television, how that's been delivered, and how we build around that in the digital channel. So I'd say it's not today where it's this really extremely dynamic, because TV is a bit harder to be dynamic in, but it's certainly deploying in digital with a deep understanding of what's already gone on through television. And that's why we say we've been doing a lot of the hard work this year, which is we think is going to pay dividends in the next 12 months to 2 years. It's all that data integration work, the specific nature of the data integration work we've done with Nielsen, and the specific nature of the data integration work we're doing with Rentrak and soon Comscore as well. That's really important to how we go and optimize into these additional channels. It's not enough just to have Nielsen data or have Rentrak data. It's how do we have it, and how can we marry that up against other cross-channel consumption data and first-party data to enable that to happen in a more cross-screen way.
So before we move on, just one quick thing. So Brightroll kind of hitched its wagon, or joined forces with Yahoo. We're going to get to Adapt, AOL, Verizon in a second. Videology is going it alone. How is that an advantage for you or a disadvantage for you? And we'll get to TubeMogul also. Like to talk about that. But
yeah. So
do you see that changing?
We love, we understand vertically integrated walled garden strategies. If I was Google, I might do the same thing, but we need technologies for everything else. And I love Facebook. Facebook is great. Last week they announced they had 8 billion video views. That's fantastic. That's starting to represent real scale. They have 1.5 billion users. So what's that? An average of 6 videos a day per user, which they're probably monetizing a fraction of a percentage of, right? So Facebook in video is starting to get scale, but from a monetizable impression standpoint, it probably adds up to less than one television ad a day. So while we really value on what those guys are doing, we've got to bring data and technology to all these, the real scale of television, and marry that with over-the-top, VOD, all the video stuff. So we're very focused on that kind of horizontal application of our technology outside of the walled gardens in an independent way.
Got it. Cool.